Hello, everyone. My name's Milt Toby. I'm an attorney and an award-winning author who's been writing about thoroughbred racing since 1972. I live in central Kentucky, which is the horse capital of the world, we like to think, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. It's going to be an unusual panel. We don't have artists or filmmakers or authors talking about their work. We have the people who are behind the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest, the people who actually make it work. And we have joining me tonight Lisa Diersen, who is the director and founder of the film festival. We have Diana De Rosa, who is an equestrian photojournalist. She's been to the past 8 Olympic Games. She's a writer, she's an actor. She is the co-founder or co-organizer, I suppose, of the festival, and she is handling press and media things. We have Julianne and Neal. She has a number of tasks. She's organizing the EQUUS tour stop in Camden, South Carolina for the last 5 years. She hosts and produces the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest podcast. She produces content for the festival, and she is interviewing authors for the authors webcast. And finally, we have Lisa Mae DeMasi. She has been interviewing 13 artists on Zoom about their contest entries. So ladies, welcome to the podcast. It's going to be fun talking with you. And I'm going to start with Lisa Diersen, not Lisa DeMasi. I won't manage the two Lisas very well, so I apologize for that in advance. But Lisa, for years there wasn't a film festival, and then now there is. Why did you start, and how did you start? What made you think this was a good idea?
Well, there wasn't one, so that's why I thought it might be a good idea. A friend of mine, Rupert Isaacson, had a documentary called The Horse Boy, which was about his son, and it's about autism and horses and how they help. And I kind of wanted everyone to see that film. And we were at the time doing a horse fair in St. Charles, Illinois, where I live, and I have a friend who owns a theater there. So I asked him if we could show the film while we were doing the horse fair, and he said, okay. And I said, well, what if I got a few more horse films since it's a horse festival? And he said, okay, I'll give you a projectionist. And we had almost 30 films the first year. We didn't have books then, and we had a few artists at the festival, but we didn't have, it wasn't about in the film festival part. And it went over well, and we moved to New York the next year, and that's when I met Diana, sitting at this wonderful theater called the Miss Harlem at the bar. We were sitting in there talking about why this was a good idea, and we were in New York for 6 of the years, and last year we moved to the Kentucky Horse Park, which in non-COVID years is our home, but now we're in your living room, your own home, with all. We hope everybody enjoys it this year. It looks like the virtual part of this will stay as part of the festival from now on, because we're getting so much positive feedback from around the world with some of our filmmakers. We have filmmakers this year from 16 different countries that are very happy that their fans and people that have been part of their films are able to watch them now and be part of the festival. So it's kind of exciting being pushed into going virtual, but now it's been a good thing to go. It's turning out to be a really good thing.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to attend one of the New York versions of the film festival a few years ago, and was lucky enough to win an award there. But how difficult has it been to pivot to a virtual format?
I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I told Julianne this morning, I think I'm busier now, or all of us are busier with doing the interviews ahead of time, getting everything put together and up onto these platforms beforehand, so that the 10 days now, because our festival used to be only 3 days, now it's 10 days. So everything has to be ready ahead of time. We'll have the Winnie Awards, which will take place on the 21st, Saturday night. those will go off live or go off on, I think it's going to be 5 o'clock on the 21st. And those will run then, but everything else had to be done ahead of time so that we can get it into the channel. And our pop-up gallery this year will be part of the EQUUS Film Festival website. So we'll have a whole pop-up gallery page where all of the interviews that Diana is doing and Julianne is doing and Lisa Mae is doing and you're doing will be there free to the public, and they'll be able to click on and watch interviews with filmmakers. And when they want to see the films, they can go to our film festival platform on Film Festival Clicks and watch the films.
Okay, that's great. A lot of people are saying that having to switch to virtual has some benefits, and it sounds like that you're making it work, and that's not always easy to do. Diana,
it's easy to do with a team. It's really easy to do with a good team. Good
deal. Diana, Lisa mentioned meeting you when she moved to New York. Tell us a little bit more about how you got involved and what your role is in the process.
Well, I decided that a film festival, a horse film festival, was going to come to New York, and that sounded pretty fascinating to me, especially since I live on Long Island, not far from New York City. And so I decided to check it out. So I went to the film festival, I covered things, I did my job, and then Lisa and I networked afterwards, and we just never stopped talking. So from that time on, we just kind of pulled our energy together to keep going into the future, and we've been doing that ever since.
So what's your role in the process? I know you're involved in media relations and in press. What does that mean?
You know, really, it's a lot of networking. It's not, I mean, I think that Lisa and I, we kind of talk a lot, and we talk about the different things that are going to be done. So in this case, this year, for instance, my focus has been virtual, doing the virtual interviews and really focusing in on that. When we've been online, on site, I've moderated the opening gala night and along with Lisa, the award ceremony, and interviewed people on site, and done whatever to try to make sure that we've got the event organized and we're ready to roll. So Lisa and I usually just have a constant communication going to make sure that the event is everything it should be.
So in dealing with the press, how responsive, I guess, has the press been when you're trying to advertise the film festival? My impression is that it gets more popular every year.
In general, I've usually had it's different this year because we're on the line, so because of that. But in general, I usually have people reaching out to me. I usually send out a press release letting them know about the film festival, and have had a large response and had all different types of media come and watch it. And of course, this year they can do it online, right? But those that could make it came to New York City or to Kentucky, which was kind of cool. It's sort of helped make the change because it allowed different people that are located, because we all know that Kentucky Horse Park attracts a lot of media. So that sort of allowed it to expand out to a different audience. Whereas when we're in New York, we got an audience that could actually come from there. So it's one of those things that people kind of love to do, and if they can get to it and cover it and write about it, they do.
That's great. And in the spirit of full transparency, I was very excited when the festival moved to the horse park last year. I live 7 minutes from the horse park, so I'm glad you're coming back.
Yes, and you want to know something? It's the best move we ever made. I mean, I think Lisa and I both chatted about it afterwards, and it's the right place. It's like having a permanent home, and the films can be seen during the year because they have loops going on every month and stuff. And so it's just the right place. With virtual now, we've got this extension, but in general, I mean, when we get back to our norm, I mean, we can't really say everything's normal right now, but in general, it really was the best thing that we could have done with the EQUUS Film Festival.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa Mae, tell me how you got involved in this and what your role is.
Yes, so I had read Bernice Endy's memoir last year, and I found out she was going to be at the festival at the Kentucky Horse Park. And I said to myself, I am getting there to meet her because I was just so inspired by her. And of course, the first person I met was Lisa Diersen. And I said, Lisa, where's Bernice Endy? I have to meet her. And we just became friendly. And I met Diana and I met Julianne. And it was a nice group of people. And Lisa asked me if I wanted to be involved this year in interviewing the artists. And I jumped at the opportunity. And that's how I got involved this year.
What's been the reaction of the artists that you've talked with? Are they excited? Are they looking forward to the festival?
Actually, the whole virtual part of this festival this year, just they were not affected by it at all. They were just so pleased to be part of the festival that it just didn't impact them in any way.
That's neat. And finally, Julianne, when I was putting together a little information for this, you seem to be wearing a lot of different hats. Tell me how you got involved and what you're doing to make all this work.
Well, I came in 2016, I think, with my partner, Bruce Anderson. We had a film called The Edge about his life and his work. And it was done by a Trinidadian filmmaker, James O'Connor, and I was the producer. And so we had the trailer that year, and I was talking to Lisa, she goes around and meets everybody. And so it was exciting to get to talk to her. I talked to her on the phone and finally meeting in person. And she asked, well, how are you going to finish, or are you going to finish your film? What are you going to do? And I said, well, we have to raise some money. And she said, well, a smart nonprofit would bring us in and do a tour stop. And I said, well, I don't know how smart we are, but we're a nonprofit. And so come on, we'll come to Camden, South Carolina. And so we sort of started the relationship with that. We organized a tour stop and we started traveling that year to all the different tour stops. So we went to Ocala, Florida, and Sedona, Arizona, and Marfa, Texas, with some of the other filmmakers were hosting and other groups hosting. And so I got to know Lisa with that. And then just everything that happened from there, we would collaborate and something would come along and she'd say, well, you should do a film about this for the Spotlight Rescue series. And we were doing a podcast already called Winnie Tales for our work. And so just decided it was a natural fit to start podcasting for the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest too. And so that's sort of how I got involved, and I've just loved every minute of it. So it was a no-brainer when she asked if we would do some web chats. I got the opportunity to speak with a bunch of authors and have had a really, really great time doing that, meeting new people. So
that's great. Lisa, it sounds like you've put together a very good team.
I did, and you know, Julianne had over 60 authors this year, and Diana had over 40 with the filmmakers with our encore films and the new films, and Lisa Mae did a great job with her artists. We had 13 artists that we've highlighted, but I've been blown away this year by the literary component, because the books that have come in have been just the quality and of the authors. It just keeps getting better and better and better.
It's amazing how much it's grown in really a very short time.
Well, it's been 8 years. I don't know if I feel like that's short, but we have grown. We have a film channel now where the films can be seen all year long. We do a lot of tour stops. We have the Winnie with Fest now, the little short 2-hour festivals that have been going virtual as fundraisers since the pandemic, where a lot of nonprofits are able to do virtual fundraising. And a couple of the different groups, we've had Book USA do it. We've had a group out of, New Mexico, the Cloud Therapeutic Writing. I think they raised $5,500 with a little, weekend film festival, so virtually. So it was really good for them. So we've been working with a bunch of different groups.
That's really neat. It sounds like a full-time job now, but let me ask you a different question, shift gears a little. I know everybody has horses in the background here. So Lisa, tell us about your horse involvement outside of the festival.
Well, my breed of horse, my favorite horse is the Lusitano, which that is our artwork this year, is Karen Silas, who's our official artist. She does a bunch of different Lusitano, beautiful photography in Portugal. And so this was one of her images that we selected for this year's poster. Last year, she had a beautiful Marin foal. The color was just breathtaking on it. But I have Lusitano horses. I love the breed. It's an interesting breed. The history, I love the history of the breed. I love the whole riding. So I have a lot of fun with the horses.
And for people who aren't familiar with Lusitanos, you need to check out Lisa's website. They're beautiful animals.
They're from Portuguese bullfighting horses.
Neat, neat. Well, Julianne, what do you do with horses?
Well, I used to event and decided about 20 years ago that hitting the fences that hard when I came off was probably not a wise move. So I moved more into dressage, which I love anyway. And so I have a horse named Winston. He is half Dutch warm blood, half Shire. And I trained with Mary Werning through the Carl McCulka system and just absolutely love dressage. And so Winnie Tails comes from my horse Winston.
Wow.
Neat. Lisa Mae, how about you?
I'm a recreational rider. I do a lot of trail riding, and every once in a while I kind of have to go wild, and I just get up in jockey position and I gallop across the cross-country fields. But I just love being around horses. I love being around horse people. I've always loved it.
Great, that's fun. Yeah, you're right though. Going fast on a horse is something special.
Yes.
Diana, I know you've ridden, you've trained, you've done all sorts of things. Tell us about your horses.
Well, I remember when I was 6 years old, blowing out the candles on a cake and wishing I could have a horse. And then when I came home from the 11th grade, many years later, I said to my dad, I think I got 100 on the Regents. And he said to me, well, if you got 100, I'm buying you a horse. Well, I got that was my horse. That was my experience with my horse. And it was just kind of recreational for a while. But then after I got out of college, I had the opportunity to run my mom's horseback riding stable. So I ran the stable for, I think 13 years it was, and went to all kinds of shows, did the Florida circuit, had students, did international competitions, national competitions. And so really had the gamut. And then life kind of moved on and I got into the journalism part of it. Instead of riding nowadays, I cover, like you said, I covered 8 Olympic Games. I was supposed to do my 9th list year in Tokyo and that got canceled. So my world is surrounded with horses in just about everything I do. It's just not necessarily as much riding anymore.
Neat. And I'm sure this keeps everybody
Well,
busy.
we've been to WAG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did the World Equestrian Games and we did the World Cup. But Lisa and I together, we sort of pulled through getting to the World Cup and the World Equestrian Games and a lot of pretty big events where the EQUUS Film and Arts Fest really got noticed.
That's great. And everybody's love of horses, I think, is obvious in the work you put into the film festival and in the results. It's obvious that you care about the animals, you care about the horses, and that shows in the organizing that you guys do. And everybody appreciates it, trust me. So let's talk a little bit then, we'll shift back to the film festival. What's the most rewarding thing, Julianne, that has come out of the film festival for you in working with Lisa and the rest of the team?
Well, I have to say, first of all, our film, The Edge, would have never been shown all over the world if we had not been involved with the festival. We would have been really proud of it. It would have been on a shelf here in the living room and my grandmother would have seen it and that's probably about it. And so because of Lisa, first of all, we had, it's been shown in France. It's been at the World Cup. It's been at the World Equestrian Games. How in the world would that have ever happened any other way? And so that's first and foremost, but also meeting this group of people right here has been life-changing for me. These are my friends. And so it's been, these guys have supported Bruce and I through so many things. And so it's every new person that comes into the festival, all the authors I've talked to this year, it's the connections that we make. And things that happen because of these connections are bigger, they grow exponentially. So it's been the most rewarding thing we've ever done.
That's great. And Lisa Mae, how about you? What's the most rewarding experience you've had so far?
Just talking to each of the artists. I mean, the artist's work is just, they're all very different, but their work and their inspiration and their journeys are just to talk to them about their work and how they see the world is just incredible. I would never have this experience otherwise than being involved with the festival.
Diana, how about you?
You know, I think one of the biggest pluses that we can say is that we have given these people a platform for their movies, for their films, for their shorts that would not be possible. So I echo a lot of what Julianne said, and Lisa and I talk about it all the time. I mean, I just, even speaking to them, the thank yous that I get from doing the interviews, just because they have a place. They create these films, it inspires them to create more films, and now they have a place that horse films can go. And that to me is the most precious gift we could have given them.
Yeah, and you're talking about a platform for the artists and the filmmakers and the writers, but it also is a platform for the horses.
Totally.
And for me, that's the most important thing of the film festival. Yeah, I love meeting the people. I love, seeing the films. I love, chatting with the authors, looking at the work of the artists, but it's the horses that really matter. So Lisa, what about you? You've been doing this longer than anybody else. What's the most rewarding thing to come out of it for you?
Well, for me is that's it. Getting the stories, being able to be a part of helping people share their stories from a book that we got in this year about a little pony that goes to a party where there's a little girl who's in a wheelchair, to the artist that did the work who is coming out of and got inspired to do the work through the loss of a loved one. That the horses brought them together, to last year when we had the miniature therapy horses, to with Mustang Saviors, the Wounded Warrior programs, the PTSD. We're showing a film this year about using horses for the prisoners with Randy Helm's program out in Arizona. To me, it's just being able to share to the world, literally to the world, because now we are all over the world. The stories of the horses helping people get better, or I don't want to say heal, but yeah, they're helping people heal, whether it's kids or adults or whatever, or just even recreational riders. It's just getting those stories out, because people do put their heart and soul into, whether it's a painting or a book, a 12-page children's book, or a 2-hour-long documentary on the different kind of worms that horses have. Everybody puts their heart and soul into what they do, and I love the fact that we're here to be able to help these people have a place to share and be rewarded and get a Winnie Award sometimes for their work. So, it makes me really proud.
I'd actually like to add to that, because, we talked about press before, and one of the things that you always hear in equine media, and I know, Milt, that you know that as well, is that we never get enough exposure. And by doing this, by having a film festival, it's created an interest in the media and a place for them to go to learn so much at one location when we do the annual film festival. So it's really been a great opportunity to get promotion through the media and get some interest in the media when it was so hard to do that before.
Yeah, the media attention is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when we had a New York Times article written, what was it, 2 years ago, Diana?
Yeah.
And the filmmaker one of the films they highlighted, the filmmaker had flown in from Germany, and he had done a documentary about their Wounded Warrior program called Silent Comrade. And when he walked in to the festival, I had a copy of the New York Times, and it was a very big story that they did on us, with a lot of pictures and a lot of coverage. And I gave him a copy and I said, there's not a lot of times that a filmmaker, no matter what film festival they're going to, gets off of a plane from Germany in New York and can say that they were in the New York Times. So that's so exciting to be able to share that and literally make his day that he was there. I mean, he was so excited about that. So
yeah, it's great. And finally, I've got a loaded question for you. I want you to think back a year. Think that we're in November of 2019. If I had asked you the question, what's the 2020 festival going to be like? You would have talked, I think, about how nice the horse park was, getting back to the horse park. So now let's look ahead a year from November 2020. What do you expect from the festival next year? Are there still more changes, or are you going to keep, we don't even know whether it's going to be in person or virtual or a combination of both. What do you expect? What do you expect to happen in the next year?
Well, unfortunately, I think we're going to have a whole nother year of virtual. Just judging from what I'm hearing with other people planning other things. But if we're not, we will have our award ceremony and have our regular fest at the horse park. But this virtual component of it, where people around the world will be able to share. So instead of Julianne having all of her interviews, or Diana or Lisa Mae or whoever is doing interviews, having them all done ahead of time, they'll be able to be live streamed. We'll be able to, and we're going to try to do a little live streaming now next week and over the 10 days that the festival will run. But there'll be a lot more live streaming. We'll have a live portion and a virtual portion. The virtual portion, I think, is going to be an important addition that we would have never done. We would have never had a virtual piece to this, other than, your Facebook Live. So this way, this has kind of nudged us out of a comfort zone a bit and gotten us into doing these interviews and learning how to do all the editing. And I mean, I've learned so much in the past month and a half trying to get this ready to go up online. So, it's been fun, and it'll just, every year has been fun with this festival. And it gets, every time I think something else can't happen, it gets, something else does, or a Bernice Sunday shows up at the festival for, in Kentucky last year. And I mean, it's always a surprise.
Diana was talking about exposure, and you're right. Being virtual gives you more exposure than you could get any other way. So
Right.
Again, it's one of the positive things, surprisingly, that comes out of the pandemic, I think, is lots of organizations have increased the scope of their reach, beyond ways you would ever expect. And finally, before we wrap up, one of the things that you always learn as a journalist when you're interviewing someone is to ask them, what questions didn't I ask you that I should have? So Julianne, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
Oh gosh, that's tough, Milt. I don't know. Pass and go to somebody else. Let me think about that. I can't think of it. You did good.
Okay, I see Lisa Mae's hand. Lisa Mae, what should I have asked you?
In what manner did I get married in January of this year?
Okay, tell me.
That's an entry in the festival.
Yeah. So my husband and I got married in January, and we wanted to have a very small wedding. We didn't want any of our direct family there. So our witnesses were 2 horses.
That's great.
In a barn.
Diana, what should I have asked you?
Actually, I just would sort of like to make a comment that you've addressed the issue that virtual has really been such a great addition. And it's something, like Lisa said, that we probably never would have done. And now we have the whole experience of doing this. And by us being able to interview these people one-on-one, it's a cleaner interview. It's more people being interviewed. It's more exposure for everybody. everybody got a chance, because when you're on site, there's not always, you're rushing around, there's not always the chance to interview everybody or find them and what have you. So I think it's been a really good gift to us to be given this opportunity to go virtual, have this experience, and then when you look to next year, we're going to have this behind us and we're going to know how we can address and expand and do even better.
Okay, great. Julianne, have you thought of something I should have asked you?
I guess so. I guess I would say you didn't ask if we have more content, new content coming from the South Carolina area. And I will say yes, we're working on a new film about a wonderful place called Camp Cole that's a place to shine, and the therapeutic riding program that goes on there. And so there's a little 3-year-old boy that was put on a horse for the first time about a week ago, and we're documenting his year. And so
Wow.
Ansel's journey will be a submission in the festival next year from the South Carolina camp. So I guess that's something that I can say.
Neat. Good deal. And Lisa, you get the last word.
Well,
What should I have asked you?
you should have asked me, how did all of us mayors feel about having our new little stallion addition to our herd?
Milt and all the women.
Yeah.
Milton, all the mayors.
Well, I'm looking forward to the festival, and I'm glad that you found room for me to help.
Well, I've known
We
for many years, I was thrilled when I mean, Milt has been a big part of American Horse Publications and is certainly a welcome addition.
Bruce is
That was unsolicited, by the way.
too. Oh.
I'm not sure you're going to be able to there, Milt.
I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. But thank you, Julianne. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Lisa Mae, and thank you, Lisa, for taking part in the podcast, and also for all the work that you're doing for the festival. It's paying off.
Thank you, Milt.
You so much.
All of us.
You're welcome.
It's an honor.
We're enjoying having you, Milt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means I'll stay around for a while. Everyone take care and stay safe.
Bye-bye.
You too. Pony on.
Yep, pony on.